We started the stream a few minutes early tonight because, quite frankly, I was getting impatient because I've been waiting to build this thing since really yesterday. But I wanted to build it on stream with all of you wonderful people because, like I said, I just maxed my enterprise. So I'm done with G5. I have conquered G5 at up 63. And now we are going to build the Minerva. Quick recap. The Minerva is the G6 uncommon ship. It requires you to get to renowned, which is 44 billion reputation. Then the blueprints are available. They cost 12,000 apiece, which breaks it 1.8 million faction credits to build one of them. You can get some of them for free. There's a loyalty box that gives you one, but more importantly, the DTI boxes, the formation victory chest when you get into the 60s does give you a chance to source some of the uncommon blueprints out of here. This changes once you have the relativity. This box will change, and then it becomes more rare epic heavy. But until then, obviously, if you're still wherever you are, it's going to be relative to your ops level. So if you're still in the 50s, it's going to show you G5 ships. If you're in the 40s, it's going to show you G4 ships. But that's how that goes. Is the Minerva the better of the 63 uncommons? I think so. The Akira has the better firing pattern, but the Akira's weapons are weaker. So it puts out a much lower damage. It's consistently shooting, but it's consistently shooting smaller shots. It's just pew 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 pew, death by 1,000 paper cuts, right? The Minerva has an interesting firing pattern where it's kind of front loaded. It's got a nice little shots in round one, but nothing fires in round two. Everything's recharging, which is not fun. Because if you don't kill him in round one, now you gotta wait till round three before you get to shoot him again. And let's go to stfc.space real quick so we can check this out. 63 uncommons. So this is what I was talking about. So the Akira has the better firing pattern because it's firing 4 shots consistently, and then you've got the torpedo doing its thing, which is, much more balanced. But if you look at, if you go back here, like, we'll just take this to like, I don't know, tier 5. The min max on some of these weapons, you're talking about 280s for the consistent weapons, and then the big gun is only like 5 to 600. Whereas if we look at the Minerva, take that to like tier 5, you're talking about 400 to 480 consistently on these weapons, and then the big gun here shooting for almost like 2 million base damage. So when it fires, this weapon does a lot more damage. The problem is that that weapon has a 3-round recharge rate, and these alternate rounds as well. So you've got 6 shots up front, including 2 big shots with this energy weapon here, and then no shots in round 2, and then some come back in 3, and then the big gun fires again in round 4. Hopefully the fight's over by then, because if it goes much longer than that, then again you get to round 6 where again nothing shoots, and you're like, oh no, now I just took another whole round of free damage. And then you've got the third ship, which is the Negvar, which if we just look at like, up through 5 here. Min damage on this weapon, the energy weapon here is a little lower. Again, under 400. You're looking in the 3s here. But it does have 2 big guns that are shooting much higher, 1.5-ish million base damage. But the firing pattern on these weapons, again, kind of alternate. You've got this small, steady pew pew thing going on, and then it's big shot, round off. Big shot, 2 rounds off, and you get to these like round 4 here where it's just the little laser, and round 6 where it's just a little laser. So, they all have their drawbacks, right? The Akira is the most consistent, but it's consistently putting out lower numbers. The other 2 ships do have higher damage thresholds, but again, you are going to have those rounds where you're, not really shooting very much at all. The other thing with the Negvar, why I sort of disqualified it for me as an option, it's a battleship, and that's kind of what the cube's supposed to be for, right? So I didn't want to have 2 battleships. I'm going to level one of them up. It's going to feed into the cube. The cube's going to get stronger, so I might as well have an explorer and a battleship that are G6 caliber and go from there. So everyone's going to have their opinions about which ones they like better. Most people tend to say that the Akira is the weakest of the three. That seems to be the consistent thought. So we're going to finish up our Minerva here. 15 hours, 6 hours, and we're actually going to build this thing right here, right now, and bring her out of the dock. Dun, 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 dun. I built a new ship. It's really awesome. Looks pretty sleek. Kind of looks like almost like their insignia a little bit if you look at it like vertically. Actually, it kind of looks similar to the Mandalorian signal a little bit now that I'm thinking about it if you hold it up. So there we go. So now we have our first ship here. And if we just do a quick swap out, so obviously the Enterprise is going to be better than it, right? A maxed Epic is going to be better than a brand new one, but it's not that far off. Like actually, if I go to, like let's compare it to the Cube here for a second. We swap it in for the Cube, right? We're going to lose some attack. We're going to lose some DPR for sure. Level 1 versus, you know, whatever the tier is. We're losing some stats. But we're gaining a lot of shield deflection. We're gaining a lot of hull health. It's got considerably more hull health and shield health too. But it's also got the warp range, right? We're starting at over 1200. That's just coming right out of the box. And I told you 1200 was kind of that threshold for doing the epics. And then 1250 is kind of what you need to get to that next tier of stuff. Straight out of the box, I'm already at 1264, which means I now have a second ship that can go to these other systems. And then the warp speed's pretty good too, because it's faster. We like that. So let's just see what we can do here. And then as far as upgrades go, well, first off, what's the actual ability? Oh, the ship ability is a resistance, so it can go into hazard systems. And then for the first level here, we are only using commons. And I'm pretty sure none of my ship events give me credit for G6 commons. So I think I can go ahead and tier it up a little bit. As far as these materials are done, we seem to have a bunch of them saved up. So let's go ahead and take this up a tier. At least get some officer slots unlocked, right? That used a little bit of material, so they don't necessarily want to deal with. And we can tier this up. We got another 15 hour, yeah, from all our grinding. Cool. There's an 8 hour and a 3 hour. Oded's trying to link me his PowerPoint presentation. I don't know what that's for, but I'm gonna pass. Maybe I'll look at it later. Yeah, it's a pretty good looking ship so far. I like it. Thanks, guys. Thanks, James. Thanks, Mord. All right, so like any new ship, of course, it's the below deck slots that definitely make a difference. James is right about that, right? You know, having a ship with a good ability and being able to fit what, 7 officers below deck? Yeah, 7 officers below deck drastically changes things, right? You can get all kinds of abilities that you can squeeze in down there. When you're suddenly only dealing with like 2 below deck officer slots or possibly 3, depending on, you know, how high you can get it to. That's another thing as well we didn't quite take into consideration. Let's go back to stfc.space for a second. These particular ships, their below deck slots for G6, are they different? You get this. So the first 3 are the same. The fourth one at 35 is also the same. But I feel like other ships we get the fifth officer at 45, whereas here you're not getting it until 55 now. So that's actually much higher on those below deck slots. So 35 to still get the fourth officer is consistent with what we've seen on other ships. But for slot number 5, having to get, I mean, 55, that's what, tier 11? I don't know, people are taking these things to tier 11 too often. Whereas if we look at, like, say, a G5 Epic here, we just look at, pick one of them. Doesn't matter. Crew slots. Yeah, you're getting the fourth slot at 30, which is actually better. And then 40, 45, and by 55, you've got the seventh slot. So by 55, which is tier 11, you're almost done maxing out your G5 Epic. You've got all 7 slots. Whereas on the G6 Uncommon, you're just getting your 5th officer here, and you still have more to go to get the last 2. That's gonna be a big difference. You know, tier 9 doesn't even get you, like, you're getting the ship to tier 7. If we go back for a second. Like, I'm going to take the ship to tier 7 to get that 4th officer slot. But if I want to actually be able to upgrade the cube, I have to take it to tier 9, which is level 45. And then I'm kind of in between, right? I'm in no man's land, where I've gone 2 levels over where I wanted to get that 4th officer slot, but it's only 2 more to go to get the 5th one. Do you want to keep going that far? Most people will say no, it's not worth it for 1 officer slot. If you run out of places to put materials later, maybe circle back to it. But for your first run through, you're probably stopping maybe here or maybe at 40 to 5 for the cube. But yeah, that's probably going to be a, you know, a dealer's choice kind of mechanic, right? Think about where you want to do with it and how you want to get it and go from there. And again, factor into the other things that may come into play too as we get, you know, newer things added to the game. Are we getting additional efficiencies and whatnot added, and that'll make some of this stuff a little more manageable? Will we get more resources being paid out from our battle passes? And, you know, are people going to continue to get their revenant higher? That's going to keep paying out more resources out of those specialty refineries and things. And again, are there going to be more efficiencies that they're going to add that will lower costs of a lot of this stuff too? Amelia's plane, yeah, that's another one too. That's a good call out there, Mord. What do we get for ship XP right off the bat? Right, I think I need 250k. What am I getting? Like 50 per, 50 per. So a couple of kills, no big deal. The artifact. Now this artifact requires your building to be level 60 though. That's the other downside to Amelia Earhart's plane, which can be sourced through the DTI faction store. This is a good one to get because it will lower your ship material cost significantly, 100% right there. But it requires the gallery to be level 61. That's going to take a while for some people to get to. I know I still have a couple levels to go. Like, I can go one more to 66, but that's not helping a whole lot right now. You need, I'm sorry, to 56. And it just takes a while to source those materials. I think they're also available now in the DTI faction store. Are they here too? I'm sorry, the Section 31 store. Nope. Not yet. This is for the command center. We don't have the artifact gallery ones in here. There is research that you can do that does lower the cost of those specialty buildings, a couple of percent here and there. So that could also be something to help reduce costs on that. That's why I'm not leveling mine up any further right now, because I'm trying to get some of that efficiency done, so my existing credits will carry me a little further. And maybe I'll squeeze 2 or 3 levels out instead of just the 1. So. All right. Let's bring you back, because we are going to relocate our base for a second. But that's the Minerva. Let's just take a quick peek, right? So I was killing some stuff earlier. We'll look at... What was I killing? All right, so I was killing the Romulan traders earlier, right? I was doing some farming for them. And how are we doing? Base hits and whatnot. So we're hitting for 35 and 60-ish, and then crits we're hitting for, 500 plus and over 900 plus on the crits. Probably not going to see anywhere near those numbers out of here. First off, different officers below deck. So I'm not going to have some of those bigger numbers with this particular crew I'm leveling with. But, decent numbers right off the bat. Still in the 30s, and then the crits, almost 300. That's the big gun right there. That's a billion and on a critical on base and another billion on isolytic. So that's what we like to see when the big gun fires. If you happen to hit that critical right there. Yeah, most of these chests, a lot of people will still use their G5 Epic for their daily grinding. First off, it's cheaper to repair. It's using old materials that you have trillions of as opposed to new materials that you have limited amounts of. Also, the repair speed ups and things are different. You have thousands of the other ones still stockpiled as opposed to these. But this ship will now selectively be used for things like maybe solo wave defenses. Maybe it's better than something else you might already have and it can slot into that third slot. Or again, the solo armadas, which is what we're going to look at it for in just a minute here. Once this ship gets back, we're going to relocate. And then we're going to go try and tackle a solo armada or 2 or 3. Artifact gallery has become super important. Yeah, it really has. And that's the thing, is that you only get for the artifact gallery, it's really only... Oh, wait, hang on. What's this? Combat report used in missions. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know what that thing was. But yeah, it's this thing. It's this artifact restoration box here. It's kind of your only method of sourcing those artifact gallery schematics, which is why doing the efficiency research is so important to try and lower the cost on that kind of stuff. All right, let's bring it back to base. I'm going to need the NX-01. What'd we get it up to? Yeah, we're pretty close. Yeah, the warp range is definitely better. Like we said, coming right out of the box. I mean, I'm over 1250 right here. So now I immediately have a second ship that I can go hit epics and higher uncommons with. I don't have to just take one ship and cross my fingers and hope that, I have the right buff supplied or that they were able to get it done and whatnot. All right, so we only got a couple levels done. That's not great. And now we're actually into a part where we're using uncommons. So I don't want to do too many other upgrades here. I'll do the warp engine because that one's free. That's just using commons, but everything else is using uncommons, and I want to save those for when there's actually an event going on. I will use some ship XP though to get those officer slots unlocked. All right, so now we're over 2 billion power, and we've got our warp range up a little bit. And now I've got 2 officer slots available. You're going to get moved. We need some mitigation from Tommy Paris, as well as my Vial there for the crit stuff. So. All right, right, now we need our NX-01 going up to bed space because I'm familiar with killing these and where they're located. We're not actually going to fly there because it takes too long. We're just going to peek in with our NX-01, recall our ship. It'll still let us see this. And now I can relocate my base. And while I'm doing that, we'll just go park all of our available miners right here. I'm not going to get much out of the Novas, just a couple thousand apiece, but I mean, it's better than zero, right? Where do you get isolytic artifact tokens from? The X-Borg store is a good way to get those. The X-Borg turn-in here, this artifact hall, kind of gives you some of both. That's the ideal way to source some of this stuff. They used to be part of like rewards we used to get for events and things. I think you might also get them from doing some formation armadas. Some of the like the rare ones and stuff. I'm not 100% sure about that because I don't do those very often anymore. But all right, and then here we go. I need Grush. So we have a Grush there. And we can switch you to the Titan. Give our guys a little Titan buff before they go on their merry way. Okay, so Minerva with Loot Crew, because I don't expect it to do too much of the damage. Put Miles or DeMarco on the Minerva with the extra shots. That's not a bad idea, since it doesn't shoot all that often. Where is Miles? %50 chance of giving me extra shots. Yeah, we'll do that. Get some extra shots there. Okay, so you come back out. Those two ships, we are going to just do a regular fortification. Now comes the fun part where we're flying into some hazards. Denverstone also says if you do the Tarka, oh, that's the other one too, right? Yeah. If you get Tarka's isolytic, sorry, it's in that refinery. This one. Tarka's isolytic weapon, which can be sourced through the Alliance tournament store, it just takes like 5 or 6 runs. Then you start getting these daily for free. I think you can get 35 per trip, and it costs like 200 to unlock it or something. So, oh, and of course, all of the solos would be on the bottom half of the system, away from where I am. So now I have to fly around in hazard space and get beaten up a lot more. That's always fun. I could have peeked. I should have peeked. Now we got to speed that up. And now we can definitely get a second one in. And then we'll run like hell. The Minerva's probably going to die on this one, but hopefully the Enterprise can finish it off. I think we got it. We'll try and recall, but I think the Minerva's going to die first. Oh, looks like we just made it. All right. Let's go back and take a peek now. So we got a nice big chunk of credits from killing these. We've done them before solo, but it usually requires having the Enterprise buffed with like Max Fort and Cerritos and Defiant and all that kind of stuff in order to take it down. So now I've got two ships. So now I got two of them this time around. And we're using Loot Crew. So again, not expecting as big numbers, but we're still getting some criticals, and it's still, carrying some of the load here, doing some damage, which we like to see. Definitely smaller, definitely firing less often, of course. But now we actually have something that can pull some of the weight, right? It's not just a one-man show. It's a 1.5-man show. And we're doing some decent damage. I mean, again, Enterprise still doing the heavy lifting, of course, but... And the Minerva not firing at all in round 2, as expected. But we're getting some extra help, and that's really what we wanted part of this to be for. Repair bills so far not terrible. 1,300. I've got 800K. So I mean, in 2 hours, a little lengthy, but it was pretty much dead, right? So 2.5 hours for like a full repair isn't bad, but it's not something I want to use consistently because it's just going to be one of those things that, I can't source those materials as regularly. Who was the third officer on the Enterprise? So it was DeMarco, Cisco, and Grush because I need the warp range. And now we can go into... Oh, I do have a G6 solo box I can open. Let's do that real quick. There's the Epic. That'll get me more repair speed ups because we always 5-hour repair speed ups. Yikes, that's a lot. And some 6-star survey parts. Okay, that's not great. And then some of this stuff we can keep chipping away at as well here. Now, ideally, I'd wait till tomorrow during incursions and I'd pop over and do this with like a loot exo and get some of this stuff done. But I'm impatient. And we are, trying to learn a little bit here. So here's what else we're going to do. The smart way to do these things... Whoops, where's my NX? There it is. The smart way to do these things is to take your NX and peek into the systems before you go, so then you can line it up. You might actually be able to even set the Armada before you get there, so then you don't even have to worry about wasting regular buff. Bring that back. We can see into host. Can I set from here, or is it too far? It's too far. Repairing a G6 is fine because you're grinding a mirror universe. There are you get way more repair speed ups in the mirror universe for sure. I have noticed that, and apparently I do have an abundance of them from stockpiling some stuff. These guys will be here in just a second. What's up, Happy Cat? What's up, Tacos? Welcome on in. Why would any faction build a station in those hazard systems? Maybe they are doing some type of scientific research. And we'll see, we're kind of wasting our timer a little bit here. I didn't quite coordinate them. So there we go. Get one of these done. This one should be easier, slightly easier than the uncommons, because these things are actually scaled appropriately with power. We'll do another one real fast, since we're here. And we can speed this up as well. Trek, you just use your Akira before you go to bed. That way it can be repaired by the time you wake up the next morning. I guess that's the way of looking at it too, if you want to save those limited speed ups. You would just sort of queue it up that way. Let's see what we got here. So the 64s, this is the epics we took down here. You got about 15,000 credits out of the actual thing, as well as another 17,000 from the box. I need 25,000 for a single chest pull to open those, which we just did earlier. So again, we're getting 30, a little over 30,000 off of that. So that's not bad. That'll keep me opening those chests for a few days. I think it's a 3-day cooldown or 4-day cooldown. Oh, it's a weekly. It's a 7-day cooldown. So even better. So I'm pretty good for a little bit here. And I've got a nice little assortment of rare and uncommon here to hold me over for a little while. But again, they also have longer cooldowns. So it's not like an everyday thing like you're used to with some of these other ones. The other main point I do want to make about why people build these ships, I know we've talked about it before, but it is the research that does also get unlocked. By having an Akira or a MINERVA or a Negvar, you get access to an additional piece of research that's out here. So I can now get radiation resistance for Romulan ships. So any of my Romulan ships will now get 15% radiation resistance. Only against this one particular type of hazard, but my mining ships, if I had a Daenerys, it would get boosted here. Obviously my Minerva gets a benefit from that as well. So this is additional radiation, only for the radiation hazards. If I want asteroid protection, well then I would need the Klingon ship and I'd have to have a Negvar. But then it would only apply the bonus to my other Klingon ships. So even though I have a Negvar and I have it leveled up, and I'd have higher asteroid resistance from doing this, it would only help my Rotaran, or if I was using, something else. I don't think a 56 could get out here, but if I happen to relocate or Gorn my way into it or something, or summon my way out here, whatever the Sompek, the 56, couldn't think of the name, somehow got out here, it would only help that ship. So they are limited in how they help and what they do. But every little bit can make a difference, especially as you tier this up and it gets higher and higher. You can get it all the way up to about a 50% reduction. So something to keep in mind. And aloha, Dr. Iron Chef. Thank you very much for coming on in hot with the 100 bits. Appreciate that. Trickle, thank you for the follow a minute ago. Try to max pull? Yes. That would be ideal. That would be ideal. If I can do double and triple pulls, which, hey, incursions, loot exo, kind of what we're going to aim for. Get some benefits of that. So let's see what research I have going that I can speed up right now. This one I can speed up. Sometimes these older researches, you just overlook them, and it's like, I need some place I can use a little bit of materials for. Sure, there we go. Let's get some of this older stuff done. That doesn't really matter a whole lot. But let's get this one done. That'll be done by the time I wake up tomorrow, basically. Not quite, but almost. Maybe with helps, it'll get close to that. We can get some of that stuff done. So that is my first run throughs with the Minerva. It's helpful, it's fun, kind of, gets a little bit of stuff done. We like it. Gives me an extra tool in my bag. It's going to take a while before it, gets up to the point where it probably will never become a primary ship, right? For most of your daily stuff, you're still going to use your G5 epics. For most of your Armada stuff, you're going to use them because they have more officer slots available. You're going to use your cube, and it will be an additional ship that, again, can help carry some of the burden. Or because of its high power number, you can put a loot crew on it, not expect it to do some of the work, but it's still going to get a larger percentage of the reward, which will then get multiplied by your loot crew.